Let's get Michelle Malkin in on this to see what she thinks about the charm offensive phase 2. What do you make of it?
First of all, can we ban the term charm offensive?
Sure.
It's offensive.
Okay, let's call it a dinner.
It's offensive.
President Obama's steak dinner.
It's interesting, of course, because the left is up in arms. It looks like they consider this budget a quote-unquote harm offensive. They don't want any entitlement cuts at all, of course. I think that there's a mistake being made strategically by some of these Republicans who sound like progressives reacting to what really are truly modest cuts in entitlement, balanced, quote unquote, with rather stiff tax increases that will, hit minorities and low-income people the hardest. And I'm talking, of course, about the tobacco taxes, the smoking taxes.
That's right. Under the president's plan, tobacco cigarettes would have a 94-cent a pack increase. Michelle, you were talking a little bit about modest decreases in the increase in the amount we're going to spend in Social Security.
Yes.
When he was still running against John McCain for president of the United States back in 2008, the guy who wound up being president, our current president, made it very clear he would never do this chain CPI thing, and we've got that embarrassing tape to rewind right now. Watch this.
John McCain's campaign has gone even further, suggesting that the best answer for the growing pressures on Social Security might be to cut cost of living adjustments or raise the retirement age. Now, let me be clear, I will not do either.
But can't that be a way of changing? Can it be that the president looks now, I mean, isn't it a starting point at least to have these dinners, to put a budget out there with something the Republicans can hold on to and maybe try to change? Isn't that the way a first draft always looks? You always make changes to it?
Sure it does. He's always evolving and erasing and rewriting history.
Well, I'm trying to look at it somewhat optimistically.
I know you're being overly fair, Gretchen, and I appreciate that. And I would hope that the Democrats appreciate it as well. But look, it's that phrase that always grates on people's nerves, of course, on both sides of the aisle now. Let me be clear, because there's nothing clear about this man's, well, you know what, it actually is very transparent, his lack of principles and his lack of honest commitment to fiscal responsibility in this country. Look, we've got $100 billion in unfunded liabilities with these entitlement programs, and I would think that the people who would be most up in arms are the young people whose pockets, whose wallets are being raided and being leveraged and mortgaged in the future, and the fact that there are so few adults willing to tackle the problem and tell America to suck it up.
Now, Michelle, here's the thing. The president's doing all these meetings, unlike his first 4 years. Karl Rove writes today in the Wall Street Journal that this is part of his plan to take back the House. Show he tried to give in, and in the end, when he gets nothing, because it seems so far away right now, it'll help line up the planets in order for him to have the momentum to take the House in a year and a half. What do you think?
Yeah, Karl Rove, meh, is what I think. But I think that
You're not a big fan.
You're lukewarm on that?
I think I'm transparent about that. But look, one thing is true. This man in the White House has been musing openly about the possibility, dreaming about putting Nancy Pelosi back in power. And if that doesn't unify the right, I don't know what will. I think it's definitely been underplayed just how important and critical it has been for the Republicans to maintain control of that House. And I think the midterms are going to be a very motivating factor in bringing the various internecine warfare-mongering factions of the conservative movement together.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the IRS, because they're usually not a fan. People are not a fan of the IRS, and tax day is coming up on April 15th. And they are now revealing that they can look at your personal emails, maybe not even with a warrant. What is happening to people's freedoms? And obviously you don't agree with this.
It is shocking, and we only know about this as a result of an ACLU FOIA request. And as a side note, I think we're lucky that we even have a fulfillment of that request, given how much undermining there has been of the Freedom of Information Act law by this non-transparent White House. But I digress. The fact is that there's been lower court rulings that have ruled that there should be warrants required when the IRS rifles through our email. But there hasn't been a Supreme Court ruling on that yet. And in the meantime, they've got this manual that basically gives them this overreaching power that as long as you've got something in the cloud or in a third-party email provider, they can look at it with impunity. At the same time, I think people have to worry about even things like Google, of course, which does say that it requires warrants or subpoenas or some sort of special judicial orders before they release or look through email records. But there's no guarantee on that, and it's very troubling. You know, in this internet world, there are very few guarantees of privacy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Stacey Dash. Remember, she was somebody who took criticism for supporting Mitt Romney. Now she's being attacked again when she talked about Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah, this is a story we have at Twitchy.com a couple of days ago. She is an actress who is very outspoken now about her political views, sort of came out of the closet during the campaign, and chastised a lot of you know, her peers and younger Americans by talking about Beyonce and Jay-Z, and as a reward for criticizing their visit to Cuba, what does she get? An amazing amount of hate and vitriol for being a black conservative, and that is something that, of course, we've been hearing a lot about on this network, and we need to hear more of. You know, just the kind of vile reaction that they face for simply being honest about their views.
And we've been monitoring that at Twitchy.com. All right, Michelle, thank you very much. We'll see you back here next week.
You bet. Take care.